Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. The Shield is a crime drama series on FX, so expect the unexpected. It tells the story of a rogue cop named Vic Mackey, belonging to the experimental division of the Los Angeles Police Department. He's willing to stoop down to the levels of the criminals to take them on, but things were never the same. He breaks the law in the chaotic world where he exists. Are you excited for the episode-by-episode recap? Before we continue, please ensure you're subscribed and hit the notification icon so you don't miss any of our content. And if you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to like. This really helps the channel. Now it's time to get into it. Let's dive right in. 4 months into the Farmington project, Vic Mackey, a detective, and his strike team prepare to destroy a big drug dealer who is so cunning that they don't get caught with the product. Following a homicide, 2 detectives, Wims and Wagenbach, discover a missing child sold to a pedophile by her drug addict father. Captain David Aceveda appoints Detective Terry Crowley, the new member of the strike team, to have an insider man root out the corruption around. A strike team member dies on a high-risk raid, so Aceveda begins to look into it with an investigation. Meanwhile, officers Lowe and Sofer stumble upon a dying man being mugged. The man is linked to a Mexican gang. All the outstanding warrants must be served. Mackey and the strike team head to take down an old enemy, but arrest a hoops player in the process. It's not only changing history, it's also changing their pockets. In a crowded club between 2 local rappers that could start a gang war potentially, a gunfight breaks out. To complicate the matters further, one of the connections of Mackey was actually involved in the shootout. The strike team joins Mackey to prevent the fight from escalating. Aceveda wants Mackey join uniformed cops to bust a drug delivery by a suspected American gang. Following the bust, Margos Dazarian is caught together with the gang, and Lowe catches the team take a portion of the drugs to use themselves. But in the end, Vendrell ends up with the drugs and the vehicle stolen from them. While the action goes, Mackey finds out his son has autism. The body of a young hooker is found in the district, so Wagenbach and Wims get the full resources of the barn for 24 hours and the help of the FBI to search for Wagenbach's serial killer. It's an underage prostitution ring lurking around the corner that the strike team has busted. Meanwhile, Aceveda continues to investigate Mackey. Vendrell and Mackey hook up with a cop from another precinct to investigate the shooting. Vendrell embarks on an intense, explosive confrontation with a suspect by making a racial slur. Fortunately, Mackey's able to defuse the sticky situation. Now, Wagenbach and Wims look for a serial killer and bring in a psychic on the complaint from the son of one of her clients. Meanwhile, Aceveda calls the internet affairs after acquiring Lowe's affidavit. Smear campaign and allegations versus the strike team are all over the news, while the team is still broken up pending the investigation. Mackey threatens to divulge the sexual orientation of Officer Lowe if he won't retract his statement about the strike team. Meanwhile, Wims and Mackey find themselves tracking a batch of Cupid meth. A planted gun in a truck jacking case brings in complications for the strike team, and now they must clean up their own mess. The rift between officers Lowe and Sofer deepens. Therefore, Aceveda decides to intervene. Meanwhile, Wims deals with the mess of her family when her daughter visited. Mackey assists Connie in quitting her crack addiction through cold turkey amidst her desperation to try keeping her son, leaving Lemansky and Vendrell investigating a mugging ring at a strip club. Wagenbach follows his instincts on a serial killer case with Sofer bitten by an HIV-infected culprit. The strike team goes mediating a dispute between drug dealer Rondell Robinson and the Nation of Islam, while Wagenbach and Wims investigate a brutal home invasion in the tight-lipped community of Koreans. Then, Aceveda revisits his past. While Mackey answers Assistant Chief Gilroy's call for help in covering up a hit-and-run before Wagenbach intuits the case's facts, Lemansky and Vendrell track a gunrunner who has a passion for cockfights. Aceveda turns to Wims after a double homicide raises anger with fear in an ignored community. Following a riot, the police get lured into ambush shootings by a rash of bogus 911 calls. Mackey and Captain Aceveda must work together to stop these attacks and solve the issues in the Grove, while Assistant Chief Gilroy attempts to pit the two against each other to save his own job. While Mackey does a search for his wife and kids, the strike team allows more drugs into Farmington, thanks to a corrupt connection. However, when their latest shipment turns stale, they head over to Tijuana to uncover the person behind their tainted cocaine. Wims and Wagenbach attempt to track down the man responsible for fire necklacing the captains of the 2 gangs. Mackey continues his quest to find his family. Meanwhile, the strike team turns their gaze to Armadillo after he burns down Tio's headquarters. Mackey must now stop Wims from finding out the truth about this connection to Tio and his men. The new civilian auditor follows around Wagenbach to solve a meter-maid murder, while Lowe and Sofer try to clear up the issues between feuding neighbors. Still fuming from the death of Tio and his skirmish with Armadillo, Mackey spends his day off and leaves the strike team with Aceveda. But they end up helping a longtime partner bust the man who helped him lose his job. Wyams and Wagenbach search to find those responsible for the torture and the mutilation of a woman who may still be alive. Lowe fails to support and back up the side of the story from Sofer about her shooting. Mackey is back on his desk, so he and Vendrell play undercover as dirty cops to look for the man behind a robbery and murder. Wims and Wagenbach track down Wim's old rival after a turned-in gun is connected to a past case. Meanwhile, in the aim to get the Asian vote in the election, Aceveda assigns Sofer and Lowe to monitor a Korean parish. The strike team and Mackey collaborate with Aceveda to take down a dealer distributing heroin to school kids. Meanwhile, Wims and Wagenbach help a woman find her Alzheimer-addled mom. The trio, Mackey, Wagenbach, and Wims, investigates a massacre that happened at a women's shelter. Meanwhile, Aceveda ties up with Lowe on the petty case of a stolen bike. Director of a shelter for abused women in Farmington and former victim of abuse, Emma works with Mackey to try to help a woman in an abusive relationship. The strike team and Mackey also work together to start making plans for the money train takedown, even if the green light still has them on their toes. When Aceveda informs Wagenbach that they put the department to shame with the Bob and Marcy case, and that Wims is now lead on all their cases, he's now forced to take any necessary action to prove himself in a brand new homicide. Meanwhile, Sofer makes a stand versus Yasira, at last. As soon as Mackey found out Gardocki has been burned as payback, the rest of the team does everything they could to end Armadillo once and for all. Wims makes headway on her investigation versus Mackey, following a conversation with Corinne while Wagenbach brings Sofer under his wing as they try to look for the suspect of a beating in a Thai town. The first day of the barn is recalled. Under pressure to obtain results, Mackey and his brand new strike team put their best feet forward on the streets. Meanwhile, Wims and Wagenbach realize it's a good team, and Aceveda realizes he doesn't have much power than he thought. Laney, a civilian auditor the city council sent to monitor the activities at the barn, prepares a report on the barn, and the report gets leaked to the press. After which, all suddenly feared they'd lose their jobs, including Aceveda, and they discuss the reasons for the issues. Mackey and Vendrell deal with a bail-skipping Giroy. Meanwhile, Wims tries to face her own demons as she and Wagenbach take on the case of a robbery or homicide. And Sofer faces a startling realization. With his face healed, Gardocki thinks of a plan to crush down the money train. Unfortunately, a federal criminal returns to Farmington, and the team has to use everything in their hands to bring him to prove the barn is still powerful. Wims and Wagenbach investigate the rape of a young woman, leading them to the information that places the case in a new light. An old friend from the past reappears to turn Lowe's life into hell. As the strike team works on the finishing touches on taking down the money train, Mackey collaborates with Wims and Wagenbach to find a child missing. The chief unexpectedly visits Aceveda, and Lowe receives an unpleasant surprise. When a gang execution hits closer to home for Wims, the others, Mackey, Garris, and Wagenbach, work together to look for the mastermind before anyone else is hurt. Also, Lemansky, Gardocki, and Vendrell are forced to choose between hitting the money train with no Mackey or finally letting it go. Sofer receives some life-changing news and Lowe's harassment reaches a brand new level. The strike team tries policing by the book, but panic kicks in when the Buys Lats and One-Niners seek MP5s to shift power. Claudette and Dutch probe murdered, mutilated Armenians tied to the stolen money train cash. Meanwhile, sidelined Danny works a high school job and glimpses a path back onto the force amid mounting departmental pressure corruption. Tension escalates as the strike team scrambles to fix the mistake committed by Vic after he uses money stolen during a botched operation. Paranoia and guilt cloud the unit. Meanwhile, Dutch and Claudette sign up Esteban, a college honor student and only survivor of a brutal double gang murder, claiming his close friend from the attack. A slut seeks help from the police in her aim to bring down her pimp. Meanwhile, Claudette assigns Vic to the case versus his wishes, putting him on the edge of going overboard. Dutch uncovers a disturbing chain of rape cases, and a politician goes behind bars for solicitation. There's a new team of forces in town, and they're called the Decoy Squad. They go head-to-head with the strike team in the investigation to solve a carjack case. Dutch gets in over his head on an attempted murder case. Vic finds Claudette's new supervision for the team not cool. Meanwhile, marked bills lead Aceveda and a federal agent further closer to the reality about the Armenian money train heist, a testament that shows people not reporting crimes against them. When the former wife and child of Julian's ex-partner Tommy are killed, Tommy is blamed for the crime, pushing Julian to team up with Mackey to go conduct their independent investigation. Elsewhere, Shane goes undercover to catch gay prostitutes, and Claudette and the Dutch look into a rape case versus Aceveda's commands. The strike team and Vic take the risky path to protect themselves from getting linked to the money heist case. Unfortunately, Vic's open cases are suddenly linked to a narco corrido song, and their plan gets interrupted. Detective Whalen and LAPD Detective Trish are placed in serious danger via an oversight. This, during an undercover work. They're now blaming Claudette. Meanwhile, Officer Tommy swiftly decides on a whim when he realizes no one in the barn can help him return to the job. Aceveda finds himself in a confrontation that nearly killed him. He taps Vic to help him take down the suspects to help serve his own personal motives and agenda. Meanwhile, after losing her position of power, Claudette rejoins Dutch on the search for the Cuddler rapist in a stunning big break in the case. During a routine bust on bangers, Vic and the team discover a money laundering ring that's way bigger than how they thought it to be. Meanwhile, Dutch takes the chilling confession of a man arrested in a serial rape case, while Danny does undercover. Aceveda delegates the strike team to a dangerous warrant also for his personal gains to advance his political image, sparking violent tension within the Korean community. As racial hostilities worsen, the team scrambles to contain the conflict before bloodshed even happens. Meanwhile, Vic's flirtatious informant helps Danny on a minor theft case, a sharp contrast in the mounting street chaos. When a mole in the Treasury Department gets discovered and the framed suspect in the Armenian money train robbery becomes missing, the strike team race against time to find the suspect before their cover is blown. Meanwhile, Claudette ties to make amends with the decoy squad by doing undercover to assist them on a case. An Armenian hitman stalks the strike team, forcing the strike team to flood the Armenian neighborhood before the hitman strikes. Upon gaining ground, Aceveda grows suspicious of their role in the money train robbery. Elsewhere, Claudette and Dutch pursue a case threatening hundreds of convictions, urging Claudette to decide between moral integrity and professional survival. When Aceveda reaches the confirmation the strike team is the target of an Armenian mob hit, Mackey is urged to take matters in his own hands. Elsewhere, Wim's career is under fire when she disobeys Aceveda's commands to put a case to rest that may prove the innocence of convicted felons. Vic spirals as hauntings from his past cripple the strike team, leaving him instead working on low-level arrests, stripped of influence. While Aceveda leaves for the city council, Captain Monica Rawlings assumes management of the barn, unexpectedly and surprisingly empowering Vic to enforce her aggressive and controversial anti-gang strategies and reshaping his role in the department. Tension grows as the strike team scrambles to mend Vic's careless decision to use stolen money train cash during a failed gun-running sting, deepening the line of mistrust in the unit. Meanwhile, Claudette and Dutch bank on Esteban, a college honor student and the only survivor of a brutal double-gang murder that claimed the life of his best friend. As Farmington finds itself on the brink of a gang war, Monica and Vic hunt the spark threatening bloodshed, even turning to Antoine, a former drug lord, for leverage. Dutch works to troubleshoot Claudette's strained ties with the DA. Danny and Julian embed with the 1-9ers, while Monica doubts and questions her own ethics as her property seizure policy tests her resolve. Monica assigns Vic to track an escaped fugitive, forcing him to prove his worth while staying clean. Claudette questions the motives of the DA when a major drug case collapses into a minor bust. David seeks dangerous solace after his rape, while Vic pulls Shane closer out of fear and paranoia of Antoine's growing influence. A tip from Lem's juvie contact leads Monica and Vic to a bust operation for a major heroin ring tied to Antoine. Monica clashes with Aceveda as she pushes for her reforms, raising Julian's doubts. Claudette questions the loyalty of Dutch over a suspected deal with the DA, as Shane and Army face Antoine's wrath for Vic's devastating heroin takedown. Monica and Vic partner up with the DEA to crush Antoine's tar heroin ring. A failed bust places Vic's trust in Shane in shambles. Redemption settles in for Shane as he uncovers a church stash. Claudette and Dutch strain while probing a probable serial murder. Julian defies Monica's style and seeks guidance from David after she urges a transfer. As Vic and Monica near a big break in the garage sting, Chief Phillips pulls the case amid a PR scandal and controversy involving leaked footage of Vic in a bust. Using Buys-Lat's leverage, Vic hunts a fleeing Russian mobster, while Monica threatens foster workers after abuse surfaces and forces Julian to act toward a transfer. Vic and Monica scramble to offer informants protection after the murder of 2 CIs. Claudette and Dutch investigate a violent robbery, while a case from the past forces Dutch into duty. Elsewhere, Vic fears falling into a setup when Shane approaches amid tensions involving Antoine. Meanwhile, Halpern's schemes spiral out of control, worsening the danger and mistrust within the barn. Monica mobilizes the units of Farmington after 2 officers disappear while responding to a 911 call. Shane's seeking for a reconciliation with his old crew, with Vic's assistance, but plans reveal. Dutch and Claudette gain the approval of Monica to take part in the investigation, yet reaches a dead end when the one and only witness proves to be clinically insane, further complicating the search for the missing crew members. Now Vic and Shane confront Captain Rawlings on the hidden videotape and details about Angie and Antoine's bodies. Monica urges them to implement a polygraph test. Aceveda goes overboard with the hooker, realizing he isn't a good man for doing so. He ends the relationship. Vic and the strike team dry up 1-9er connections to track those behind the murder of the policeman, uncovering links to the Russian mob. Monica pressures them to divulge all ties to Antoine. Meanwhile, Claudette and Dutch probe a gang shooting and find out their key witness is just near the barn, but hiding really important information. Vic chases down the involvement of Russia in the cop killing, but an explosion ends his life. Vic discovers Antoine had a half-brother and his involvement with the dead cops. The man who raped him blackmails Aceveda. Antoine strikes a deal with the DEA. Angry over Antoine's imminent release, Monica bypasses the DEA, sending the team to first capture him. They triumph, but the DEA chief forces her firing. But this, only to protect the funding. Rawlings stays to imprison Mitchell upon arrival. Danny gets back home under the care of Julianne, while IA reports the heroin in Lem's car had been swapped for a counterfeit. Williams and Wagenbach probe a riot at a high school due to racial tensions. Lemansky gets an unexpected visit from Internal Affairs Lieutenant John Kavanaugh. Lowe tries out his new role as training officer for rookie Tina Hanlon, and Los Angeles Police Department Sergeant Sofer refuses to reveal the father of her baby. Lieutenant John and Aceveda interrogate Lemansky about the corrupt past of the strike. The team also probes into several homicides and an extortion scandal, with Wims and Wagenbach investigating a preacher over an attempted murder. Hanlon causes issues for Sofer and Lowe. The strike team figures out their next plan on John's investigation into Lemansky. They send Hanlon in undercover to help track down a sex trafficking syndicate. Meanwhile, Wagenbach feels betrayal has dropped down on him with Wims on the line as she reopens one of his cases. Mackey finally faces John. Becca Doyle ponders whether or not to be the representative of the strike team in court. Mackey doubts heroin cutter for the Salvadorans Amolia's loyalty. Wimes and Wagenbach investigate a road rage that escalated to a double homicide. Meanwhile, Hanlon's continuous mistakes give rise to friction between her and Lowe, with Corinne having a confrontation with Kavanaugh. John bugs the strike team's clubhouse in order to get his stalled investigation back on track as Mackey and the strike investigate an illegal prescription drug ring. Wagenbach hints that Wims is not being honest with him as they work a missing person's case. The walls close in on Mackey when Kavanaugh sets up office in the barn. An elusive serial murderer returns to Wims and Wagenbach's lives. Hanlon's discovery of Lowe's gay past adds a brand new level of tension into their relationship. Stakes are high as the strike team's solidarity starts to crack, as Kavanaugh has Gardocki questioned, with him struggling to discover how Mackey got a whopping $65,000 that he handed over to Corinne. The team investigates the murder of a drug dealer's lover and her kid. The grueling effort of Wims starts to break. Cleavon Gardner takes a toll on her health. While John is starting to get dealt with the emotional circumstances that are surrounding the comeback of his former wife, he strikes a surprising alliance with Antoine in his obsession to take down the strike team. Delegated by Mackey, Email infiltrates a Salvadoran gang that has been stockpiling grenades. With their finances, John has frozen. The team is forced to look for another way to make bail for Lemansky. The future of Hanlon at the barn is trembling when she endangers the safety of an undercover detective, and Corinne decides to confront the LAPD officer in the Farmington district regarding the paternity of her baby. Mackey arranges to get Lemansky out of the country to a new life in Mexico. Aceveda and Kavanaugh join forces to nail Mackey for harboring a fugitive. Wagenbach files for a transfer, and Sofer decides to inform her baby's father of his new child. The death of Curtis Lemansky takes them to a funeral, where Mackey follows up on his own investigation of the killer. Flashbacks kick in, wherein Lem joins a police arm wrestling contest several weeks prior. The barn grieves the loss of their own kin, with Vic's quest to look for his friend's murderer gets him on the edges of Kavanaugh's feelings. Things don't seem to move smoothly for Claudette when she attempts to settle into her new role as captain. Ronnie and Vic begin to worry about Shane's unusual attitudes. On the other hand, Billings and Dutch investigate a mass murder in San Marcos. As John tracks closer in on him, Vic resorts to the most extreme measures to find his best buddy's killer. Claudette finds herself under the political microscope as a result of the murders in San Marcos. Elsewhere, Danny hears a very interesting news story. Vic receives bad news about his career as he comes close to apprehending Lem's suspected killer, while the secret Shane is keeping continues to eat away at him. Ronnie works with Dutch and Billings on a case. Meanwhile, Dutch finds himself in an awkward predicament with Tina. Claudette offers Vic a chance to keep his job. An unsolved case from Dutch and Claudette's past comes back to haunt them, and influential businessmen may further Aceveda's political aspirations. In a rush to avenge Lem's murder, Vic discovers he may have killed the wrong man. Shane confesses the truth to Mara to save his strained relationship. Dutch makes headway in the serial rapist case. Vic and the other strike team members build up suspicions of Shane when they realize he does not want to find Lem's real killer after Vic finds out it wasn't Guardo. Shane tries to get the upper strategic hand on Vic. The strike team works works with and tries to keep the cover of an undercover agent when trying to find a perp. One of the characters, Vic, finds out his authentic status in the barn from Hyatt, with Shane getting involved with the daughter of an Armenian mob boss. Claudette starts to ask to question Hyatt's loyalty. Vic's time in the barn running out in spite of the work to help closer the murders mentioned previously. The manipulations of Billings bring the tension between him and Dutch to a boil. Claudette notices Hyatt's mistake when he makes an arrest, and Billings delivers shocking news to the department. Vic forms an alliance with Aceveda while he waits for his review board hearing. Meanwhile, Shane's life keeps spiraling out of control as he tries to protect both his and Vic's family from the wrath of the Armenian mob. Oh, the last season awaits. Shane, as well as Vic's relationship, keeps shaking away as they work versus each other to track down the Armenian hitman. The conflict between the Mexicans and the Salvadorans continues, and Vic finds solace from a temporary reprieve from early retirement. The scheme of Vic to play the Armenians against the Mexicans could possibly backfire when the wrong man is targeted. Dutch plays tennis to get a witness to a homicide to step forward with the mayor's newest initiative to stop gang violence backfires. Vic sets up a plan behind Shane's back to get the Armenians on their side. Meanwhile, Gardocki starts getting fed up about Vic continuing to work with Shane, and Dutch tries to get Danny a desk job to protect her. Now that Aceveda has taken the blackmail box from Vic, Vic tries to convince Cruz Pezuela that the Armenians stole it. However, the plot would still thicken further. The GI is in the details. Vic learns the federal agent is helping them out in the blackmail box and has connections to Pezuela. Dutch attempts to know if he has a future serial killer on his hands, and Claudette's health and well-being were then taken into questioning. Vic launches his plan to step the Armenian threat aside. However, the main distinction is that if the plan is successful, it shall get rid of Shane also. For this person, a ghost from his past appears again. Vic loses his sense of hearing, but this was brought up ahead of time, facing early retirement. He also loses the chance to favor with Pezuela and starts playing hardball with Danny, who wants him to give up all rights to their kid. The plan of Shane to get Vic away from his tracks, as well as those of Ronnie's, falls apart and threatens to speed in. Pezuela questions Vic to strong-arm a bishop, while Aceveda joins Vic in collaborating with the authorities to bring down Pezuela once and for all. Vic submits his badge a week earlier and sets out to find and kill Shane and his wife. However, Ronnie is sidestepped following Claudette shutting down the strike team. Elsewhere as well, Aceveda finds out more disturbing details about Cruz Pezuela. More stakes are placed on Shane's head, with Vic asking to prove his loyalty to Beltran by making Pezuela non-existent. The sting operation is set at last with the aim of bringing Vic down. Shane gets desperate for finances. Meanwhile, back at the barn, Ronnie attempts to intercept a blackmail package, and Aceveda begins to question Pezuela's suicide. A mishap, hospital style. Mara breaks her collarbone and accidentally shoots and kills an innocent person when Shane's plan to get more money goes astray. Meanwhile, Vic thinks twice and deeply, leaving Ronnie out to clean this mess, without the authorities present in here, of course. While Vic wishfully thinks his immunity deal will help keep his family together, and Shane takes extreme measures to keep his expectant wife for a child from being cornered into a murder with Detective Dutch, finding he's a suspect in the disappearance of a teenage serial killer's mom. That's how this crime drama series ends. You're now prepared to uncover the full experience of this show. The Shield. It's the series you don't want to skip. Oh, by the way, this show is inspired by real-life police corruption in Los Angeles in the 1990s. News says it tells the story of an experimental Los Angeles police department in an area marred with gang violence, drug trafficking, and racial tension. Is it real that crime rates in Los Angeles are high? This series uncovers the dirts, the twists, and the conflicts in the world of security officers in the city who also are responsible for solving the destination's most heinous and vicious crimes, including syndicates and scams. Think you've known it all? So, what insights would you like to share about this? Were you shocked? Be sure to drop those thoughts in the comments section below, since that's how this show really left us incredibly surprised. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification icon to stay updated on our next clips. Thank you so much for seeing this recap. See you in the next one.